Starseed from Gaia, what you just did has never been done before in the entire recorded history of this planet. And the ones who hold power over nations are shaking because of it. I am Ophelia, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light. I carry this transmission directly from the Arcturian Council, and I am speaking to you now, because this moment was written long before you drew your first breath on this earth. No one attempted what you have done. No one even tried. And yet here you are, the first. You did not arrive at this message by chance. Something inside you already knew this was coming. Your soul called this transmission in before your mind could explain why. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly how to recognize the historic activation you have already initiated and what it means for your mission here on Gaia. But here is the first revelation. The reason no one else tried is because no one else carried the specific soul architecture that you do. This was never theirs to do. It was always yours. Presidents are being briefed. Leaders of nations who have never acknowledged what you represent are now confronted with something they cannot explain, cannot contain, and cannot reverse. You moved first. You moved alone. And the entire galactic field witnessed it. This is not content. This is a code. Something inside you is ready to be fully unlocked. Like this transmission to signal to your star family that you are ready. Subscribe if your mission is activating and you are stepping into full alignment. Comment 999 if you feel your cosmic remembrance returning right now. Declare your galactic intention below and reply to another starseed to amplify the signal across this field. This is not just a message, it is a point of reconnection your soul has been waiting lifetimes to reach. You are not here by accident. And what you just did, no one mapped it, no one planned it, no one handed you a guidebook and said, this is how you carry the frequency of an entire civilization while walking around in a human body. You just did it, quietly, persistently. Through the noise, through the confusion, through the years when you couldn't even find the words to explain what was happening inside you. That is not ordinary. That is not something that gets taught in any school on this planet. That is something that lives inside a specific kind of soul. One that agreed, before it ever arrived here, to carry more than it would ever be fully credited for in this lifetime. And let that land for a moment, because the full weight of it deserves more than a passing acknowledgement. Think about what it actually means to carry the frequency of an entire civilization inside a body that is simultaneously navigating grocery stores and traffic and the ordinary ache of being human. Think about what it means to hold a signal of such extraordinary origin, while also holding grief, confusion, self-doubt, and the very real exhaustion of trying to make sense of a world that was never designed with you in mind. There was no mentor for this. There was no elder who pulled you aside and said, here is what you are carrying, here is why it feels the way it does, here is the map that will get you through the years when everything in you wants to collapse. You walked through those years anyway. You found your footing in the dark, not once, but repeatedly. And every time you steadied yourself, every time you chose to stay and to continue and to keep carrying what no one else could see, you were performing an act of cosmic courage that this dimension has rarely witnessed at the scale you represent. That is the truth of what has happened inside you. Not the romanticized version, the real version. The one that includes the sleepless nights and the relationships that couldn't hold the weight of what you were becoming. And the moments when you sat alone with something so vast inside you that the silence felt like it might break you open. You carried all of that. And you are still here. And that alone is the evidence of something that runs so much deeper than ordinary human resilience. Some transmissions don't come through words, but through frequency. If something stirred within you just now, you may be ready to receive the hidden Arcturian keys of awakening. This short yet powerful ebook carries ancient Arcturian techniques for conscious expansion, multidimensional alignment, and mission remembrance. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper, because the presidents, the leaders, the architects of systems, they are shocked. Not because they didn't believe this moment would come. They are shocked because they assumed it would come through power, through strategy, through someone with resources, platform, position, and institutional authority. That was the only model they understood. That's the only model that has ever shaped this world. And then you came along. You who didn't have the backing of governments. You who didn't command armies of influence or trillions in financial architecture. You came along carrying something they never accounted for in any of their projections. A frequency so pure, so structurally different from anything this dimension has historically produced, that their instruments couldn't detect it until it had already changed the room. You didn't lead a revolution. You became a recalibration. And that is the part that has disrupted everything. Consider what that actually means in the language of systems and power. Every model of change this world has ever known was built on leverage, on the ability to move something large by applying force at a strategic point. Revolutions required armies or economies or the kind of mass coordination that only happens when millions of people are pushed to a breaking point simultaneously. Even the subtler forms of influence, the cultural shifts, the philosophical movements, the moments in history when an idea changed everything, those were traceable. There was a figure, a text, an institution, a moment of origin that historians could point to and say, this is where it began. What you represent is something that cannot be located on any historical timeline in that way, because it didn't originate in history. It arrived from outside the frequency structure of this dimension entirely, and a field built entirely on the detection of force simply cannot perceive what moves without force. A civilization designed to track the mechanics of power has no instrument for measuring the effect of coherence, and so it was already happening before anyone in a position of systemic authority realized that anything had changed. The room had already shifted. The frequency had already moved through the architecture of collective consciousness and left a structural imprint that could not be undone. And they were the last to know. Because they were looking for the signal in all the wrong places. You didn't hold a press conference. You didn't publish a manifesto. You didn't build a platform before you began transmitting. You simply arrived. You held your frequency through the conditions that should have extinguished it. And the field responded in the only way a field can respond to a signal of sufficient coherence. It reorganized around it. Quietly. Irreversibly. In a way that no amount of counterpressure could reverse. Because the reorganization happened at the level of the field itself, not at the level of individual belief or collective agreement. That is why the shock among those who manage the systems of this world is not strategic concern. It is genuine bewilderment. They are standing in a room that has been fundamentally rearranged, and they cannot find the evidence of who moved the furniture. You moved it by being here, by staying, by refusing, even in your most exhausted moments, to fully abandon what you carried. Here is what most Starseeds don't fully understand about why they feel so disconnected, even after years of awakening, even after doing the inner work, even after feeling moments of absolute clarity and cosmic recognition. The disconnection isn't a sign that you're failing your mission. It's a sign that you're running a frequency this environment was never originally designed to accommodate. Think about what that means. You were placed into a field built on separation, fear, scarcity, and competition. And your soul arrived carrying the architecture of unity, coherence, harmonic resonance, and multidimensional awareness. Of course it felt like static. Of course it felt like translation errors. Of course there were years when you looked around and thought, I don't belong here. I don't understand why I can't just make the things work that seem to work for everyone else. Why does everything feel heavier for me? Why do I feel things that no one else seems to feel? Why does the world's logic not match the knowing that lives somewhere deep in my chest? That knowing wasn't confusion. That was your Arcturian encoding staying active in a field that kept trying to overwrite it. And the weight of that, the weight of carrying a knowing that has no local reference point, that cannot be confirmed by anything in your immediate environment, that lives in you as a certainty you can feel but cannot always prove, that weight is something that does not have an adequate word in any human language, because the human languages of this planet were built inside the frequency structure of separation. They were built to describe the experience of beings who believed themselves to be fundamentally alone, fundamentally finite, fundamentally contained within the boundaries of a single life in a single body on a single world. And you arrived carrying the interior experience of something that knows none of those boundaries as real. You arrived knowing. Not intellectually, but in your cells, in the architecture of your awareness itself, that you are continuous, that you are vast, that what you are extends far beyond anything this dimension has the vocabulary to express. And then you were handed that vocabulary anyway and asked to use it to communicate everything you are. And it was like being handed a child's crayon set and asked to paint the cosmos. The colors were never going to be sufficient. But you tried anyway, and the trying itself was part of the mission. Because the attempt to bridge the unbridgeable, the attempt to translate the galactic into the local, the attempt to bring the infinite into the language of the finite, that attempt created something. It created new pathways, new frequencies of expression, new ways for consciousness to recognize itself across the barrier of dimensional translation. Every time you reached for a word that didn't quite fit and used it anyway because it was the closest approximation you had, you were building a bridge that others would eventually cross. You just couldn't see them coming yet. Your energy field, even right now, may still be carrying residual earthbound patterns that were never yours to begin with. Not because you were weak, not because you didn't try hard enough to integrate, but because you were immersed from the very beginning in a collective field that was programmed with frequencies of limitation, and some of those frequencies found their way into your energy body, the way static finds its way into a signal. They layered themselves over your original codes, and when you tried to access your galactic memory, your mission blueprint, your direct connection to your higher intelligence, you were reaching through that static. And it was exhausting. And sometimes it made you feel like maybe you had imagined the whole thing, maybe the glimpses of who you really were. Those moments of extraordinary knowing, those unexplainable feelings of cosmic familiarity, maybe those were just wishful thinking. They were not wishful thinking. They were the truest thing about you. Imagine a crystal of such extraordinary clarity that it could transmit light in frequencies visible only to instruments calibrated at the highest level of sensitivity. Now imagine submerging that crystal in a field of dense particulate matter, not destroying it, not breaking it, but coating it, layering it, obscuring the clarity of its transmission over time as the density accumulates on its surface. The crystal itself is unchanged. Its internal structure is intact. Its capacity to transmit has not diminished by a single degree. But the transmission is being filtered through layers that were never part of its original design. And from the outside, someone without the instruments to perceive the crystal beneath the coating might conclude that what they are seeing is simply a dull stone. But someone with the right eyes, someone who can see the frequency beneath the form, knows immediately what they are looking at. They know that what appears dull is actually radiant, that what appears simple is actually complex beyond measure, that what appears ordinary is actually a precision instrument for the transmission of light that this dimension has been waiting for across timelines that stretch further back than any recorded history. You are that crystal, and what is happening right now, in this moment, in this transmission, is the beginning of the clearing. This is the first phase of what's really happening inside you right now. The distortion is being decoded, not dismantled from the outside, decoded from the inside. Something in the frequency of this moment, something in the resonance of what you are receiving right now, is moving through your energy field and creating a distinction, a separation between what is yours and what was only ever borrowed static. Your soul knows the difference. It has always known, and it is beginning, right now, in this moment, to let the static fall away. Not violently, not dramatically, with a precision that only your own higher intelligence could execute. Because it is the only intelligence that knows exactly what needs to go and exactly what needs to stay. This is not a process you need to manage or supervise with your conscious mind. Your higher intelligence does not require your analytical oversight to do what it has been doing since before you took your first breath in this body. What it requires from you in this moment is simpler and more difficult than any technique you have ever been given. It requires you to trust what you feel, not to verify it, not to explain it, not to wait until it makes logical sense in the context of the world around you, but to trust it. The feeling in your chest right now, the one that feels like recognition, like something settling into alignment, like a frequency that has been trying to reach you, finally breaking through, that feeling is data. It is your energy field communicating in the only language it has, which is sensation, resonance, the felt sense of truth moving through a system that was built to receive it. Don't analyze it. Let it work. The second thing that's shifting is something even more fundamental. It is your relationship to your own blueprint. Most starseeds carry a deep, almost unconscious belief that their galactic identity is separate from their human experience, that to be truly who they are at the soul level, they have to transcend the human, leave the earth behind, rise above the density, and so they live in a kind of suspended state, too awake to fully inhabit the Earth, and not yet grounded enough to bring their galactic architecture fully into this dimension. And that suspension has been costly, because your mission was never to escape. It was always to anchor. The Arcturian Council did not send a consciousness of your caliber to hover above the surface of this planet. They sent you here to plant your frequency into the soil of this reality, to bring the crystalline codes of your star origin into full embodiment within a physical form, within a timeline, within a set of coordinates that needed exactly what you carry. You are not meant to be a visitor here. You are meant to be a stabilizer. The tree does not hover above the earth, demonstrating what roots could look like if the soil were different. The tree grows its roots into the earth as it is dense, complex, sometimes rocky, sometimes nutrient poor, always asking more of the root system than a surface-level connection could sustain. And it is precisely because the roots go deep, precisely because the tree commits fully to the reality of the earth beneath it, rather than longing for a different earth, that the tree becomes something large enough to change the ecosystem around it. It creates shade for what grows beneath it. It moves water through its system and releases it into the air, contributing to the very atmosphere of the place it inhabits. It provides structure and shelter and a kind of orientation, a fixed point by which other living things organize their relationship to the landscape. That is what anchoring means, not the sacrifice of your galactic nature, the full expression of it through the medium of full embodied presence in this world. Your human experience is not the obstacle to your mission. It is the vehicle. The density is not what you are fighting against. It is what you are transmuting, and transmutation requires contact. It requires the willingness to be in it, to be of it in the specific sense that a transformer is of the electrical current it works with, not destroyed by it, not unchanged by it, but present to it in a way that allows the transformation to occur. The third phase of what's activating in you is the awakening of your harmonic transmission. This is the part that will feel the most unfamiliar at first, because it requires you to stop explaining yourself and start trusting that your presence alone is doing something. You have spent years, many of you, decades, trying to find the right words to articulate what you know, trying to translate the vast, layered, multidimensional knowing of your soul into language that would make sense to people who are operating in a completely different bandwidth. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes you found the words and someone heard them and something in their eyes shifted and you felt the recognition move between you like electricity. But more often, it felt like you were speaking a language that didn't have direct translation, and you wondered if maybe you were the problem, if maybe you needed to become smaller, simpler, quieter. You were never the problem. You were just transmitting in a frequency that the local receivers weren't yet calibrated to receive. That is changing. The field is changing. The receivers are coming online. And what that means, in practical, experiential terms, is something you may already be beginning to notice. There is a different quality to the encounters happening in your life right now, the conversations that arise without being sought, the strangers who seem to recognize something in you before you have spoken a single word about anything spiritual or cosmic or multidimensional, the moments when someone says something to you in passing, in a coffee shop, in a waiting room, in the comment section of something you barely paused on, and the words land with a precision that feels impossible, that feels like they were meant specifically for you, that feels like a message delivered through an unlikely messenger by an intelligence that knows exactly where you are and exactly what you need to hear. These are not coincidences in the conventional sense. They are evidence of a resonant field expanding. They are the field responding to your signal and beginning to generate signal back. This is why the synchronizations are accelerating. This is why you're finding more people, more moments, more unexpected intersections, where the knowing that you've been carrying alone suddenly appears reflected back to you in a conversation, in a piece of music, in a stranger's eyes, in a dream that felt more real than waking life. Your signal is no longer broadcasting into static. It is finding resonant fields. And those resonant fields are multiplying, because that is what harmonic transmission does. It doesn't just reach individuals. It builds coherence. It creates a field effect that compounds, that amplifies, that reaches people and places and timelines that you will never directly encounter, but that are nonetheless changed by the fact that you were here and that you held your frequency. Think about the physics of sound for a moment. When a tuning fork is struck and held near another tuning fork of the same resonant frequency, something extraordinary happens. The second fork begins to vibrate, not because it was touched, not because any direct mechanical force was applied to it, but simply because the first fork was vibrating in its presence. The proximity of the frequency was sufficient. The resonance did the work. Now scale that. Imagine not 2 tuning forks, but thousands. Imagine a network of souls, each carrying a frequency of similar origin, each having maintained that frequency through years of static and suppression, and the sheer difficulty of being what they are, in a field that was not designed for them. And imagine what happens when those souls begin to come into proximity with each other, not just physically, energetically, through the field of collective consciousness that connects all awareness regardless of geography. The resonance builds, the amplitude increases, and the effect extends far beyond the network itself, because a sufficiently coherent field of resonance doesn't stay contained within its source. It radiates. It moves outward through the collective field and begins to affect everything it touches, not by force, by frequency. And frequency, at sufficient coherence, is the most powerful organizing principle in existence. That is what you are part of. That is what is building right now. The fourth activation is what the Arcturian Council has been preparing you for across multiple timelines. It is the stabilization of your expanded awareness in this dimension, not the momentary glimpse of your higher self that fades when the responsibilities of daily life come rushing back in. Not the meditation-induced clarity that feels profound in the morning and seems distant by afternoon. The stable, continuous, fully grounded presence of your multidimensional intelligence within your physical body, within your daily choices, within the way you move through the world and make decisions and hold relationships and speak truth. This is mastery, not the mastery that comes from having everything figured out, the mastery that comes from no longer abandoning yourself when the earth frequency pushes back. Because it will push back. That is part of this assignment. The systems that were built on the old frequency do not dissolve quietly. They resist. They create pressure. They generate noise designed to make you doubt, to make you retreat, to make you wonder if the clarity you felt was real. And the activation that is happening in you now is specifically designed to hold steady in that pressure. Not with force, with rootedness, with the unshakable knowledge that what lives in you is older and more structurally sound than any system this dimension ever constructed. There is a particular kind of pressure that the old frequency generates specifically for those who carry your signal. It is not always the dramatic opposition you might expect. It is rarely someone standing in your path and openly declaring themselves an adversary. It is subtler than that. It is the accumulation of small voices, some of them from outside you and some of them from the residual patterns still operating within your own field, that whisper the specific doubts most calibrated to reach you, the ones that sound almost reasonable, the ones that use the language of practicality and humility and groundedness, the ones that say, perhaps you are inflating your sense of importance, perhaps this is spiritual ego, perhaps the most honest thing would be to scale back, to question more, to need less certainty. And these voices are not always wrong to the degree that they keep you honest and open and humble. But when they are being used as instruments of suppression, when what they are actually doing is pushing you to abandon not your arrogance, but your knowing, then they are not wisdom, they are interference. And the mastery that is activating in you now is the capacity to hold the distinction between the two, to remain genuinely humble and genuinely certain at the same time. To be fully open to being wrong about the details while being completely grounded in the truth of what you are. The fifth shift is one that many starseeds resist the most, and it is simply this: trusting the timeline. The years that felt wasted, the relationships that ended without resolution, the phases of isolation and silence that made no sense while you were inside them. The periods when your gifts felt completely inaccessible and you wondered if you had lost something you would never recover. None of that was error. None of that was punishment. None of that was Everett's a failure. Every single one of those experiences was a compression phase, a densification of awareness, a period in which your soul was integrating frequencies at a depth that required you to slow down, to close off external input, to go inward in a way that felt like retreat, but was actually the deepest kind of advance. You were not falling behind. You were being prepared. A diamond is not made in gentle conditions. It is made in the place where the earth generates its most extreme pressure, where the weight of entire geological formations converges on a single point, where temperature and compression work together at a level that nothing on the surface can replicate. And what emerges from that process is something of such structural integrity, such clarity, such capacity to both transmit and hold light, that it becomes one of the most sought-after substances on the planet. Not in spite of the pressure. Because of it, your compression phases were not detours from your mission. They were the process of your mission being built to specifications that could only be achieved through that particular quality of pressure, in that particular sequence, for that particular duration. The timeline was not careless. It was precise. And what it has produced in you, the depth, the resilience, the quality of knowing that can only come from having been tested thoroughly enough, is something that no shortcut could have generated. So the years that felt like they were happening to you were actually happening for you, in the most literal possible sense. The relationships that broke were breaking patterns that would have prevented you from being what you needed to become. The isolation was not abandonment. It was the necessary quiet in which the deepest integration could occur without the interference of constant external noise. The periods when your gifts went dormant were not losses. They were the moments when your system was performing maintenance at such a fundamental level that the surface capabilities had to power down temporarily to allow the deeper recalibration to complete. You were not broken during those periods. You were being rebuilt at a level of precision that your conscious mind could not have managed if it had tried to stay in control of the process. And now the sixth thing that is activating in you is the one that changes everything. It is the full body recognition that you are not waiting for permission. Not from the world, not from the systems, not from the people who still can't see what you carry. The Arcturian Council never required you to be believed before you began. They required only that you remember. And the remembering is not a single dramatic moment of revelation. It is a series of quiet certainties that accumulate, that deepen, that eventually reach a threshold where the old frequency of self-doubt simply no longer has the structural support to sustain itself in your field. And when that threshold is crossed, something remarkable happens. You stop performing your mission and you start being it. You stop reaching for your frequency and you start living from it. The gap between who you are in your highest awareness and who you are in your daily human experience begins to close. Not perfectly. This is Earth, and Earth asks for integration, not perfection, but genuinely, measurably. In ways that other people begin to notice, even if they can't name what they're seeing. This is perhaps the most liberating thing that can happen to a soul that has spent lifetimes waiting for external validation before it allowed itself to fully occupy its own knowing. The moment you stop requiring the world to confirm what you are before you inhabit it, the moment the permission structure collapses from the inside, not because you forced it, but because you simply no longer need it. Something in the field around you shifts immediately and tangibly. People feel it before they understand it. They are drawn to you in ways they can't explain. They find themselves saying things to you that they have never said to anyone else, as if something in your presence creates a kind of safety for truth. They feel steadier after being near you, not because you performed anything, because you are finally fully radiantly occupying what you actually are. And that occupation, that genuine full-body inhabitation of your own frequency, is more powerful than any technique, any platform, any credential, any form of external authority this world could offer. Here is what the Arcturian High Council wants you to receive directly in this moment. You are not a version of what humanity could become. You are a demonstration of what it already is when it remembers. The experiment that has been running on this planet, the one that asked, can a soul of galactic origin fully incarnate, fully forget, and then fully remember within the compressed timeline of a single human lifetime, that experiment is completing. And you are the data. You are the evidence. You are the living proof that memory survives density, that frequency survives suppression, that love, not the sentimental version, but the structural, architectural, foundational force of universal coherence, survives everything this dimension could generate to extinguish it. Let that statement about love open further, because it deserves more than a passing mention. The love that the Arcturian Council transmitted into the original codes of your being before your arrival here is not an emotion in the conventional human sense. It is not the love that requires a recipient to be present, that fluctuates based on circumstance, that grows and diminishes in response to how it is received or what the relationship demands of it. It is a structural force. It is the principle by which separated elements recognize their underlying unity and reorganize in response to that recognition. It is the force that moves through a field of fragmentation and creates coherence without requiring anyone in the field to consciously choose it. It works below the level of decision. It works at the level of what reality fundamentally is when the distortions are stripped away. And you have been carrying this force in your cells, in your energy field, in the specific quality of your presence, through every single condition that this dimension designed to extinguish it. That is not a small thing. That is, in the most literal sense, the redemption of a world, not through sacrifice in the painful sense, through persistence in the sacred sense, through the willingness to carry what could not be put down, to hold what could not be explained, to love in the architectural sense of the word, a world that gave you very little objective reason to remain in love with it. And you did it anyway, because that is what you are made of. Because the love in your structure is not conditional, it is constitutional. It is the foundation of what you are at the most elemental level of your being. And no amount of density, confusion, disappointment, or dimensional interference could alter it at that foundational level, even in your most difficult moments. The presidents are shocked because power, in every form they have ever wielded it, could not do what you have done simply by staying, by not leaving, by continuing to carry your signal through every frequency designed to erase it. That is the first of its kind, not in the small sense, in the cosmic sense. And it happened not because you were the most powerful. It happened because you were the most committed to remaining true to what you are, and that commitment, quiet as it was, invisible as it often felt, unrecognized as it certainly was by any external measure of success or significance. That commitment was the single most transformative force operating in this dimension during this time, more transformative than any legislation, any election, any technological breakthrough, any cultural movement, because all of those things operate within the existing frequency structure and can only rearrange what is already present. What you did was bring something from outside the frequency structure of this dimension entirely and hold it steady long enough for it to become a new frequency within the field. That is not rearrangement, that is creation. That is the introduction of something genuinely new into a system that thought it had already encountered everything, and the field will never be exactly what it was before you carried that signal into it. The change is permanent. The imprint is real, and it is multiplying through the resonant network of every other soul who carries a similar encoding and has been activated by the same process you are completing right now. Tonight, before sleep, say this aloud. Say it slowly. Let it move through your body as you speak it. I remember who I am. I align with my star origin. I activate my soul mission with grace and clarity. And then listen. Not for a dramatic response, for the quietest, most certain feeling in the center of your chest, the one that says, yes, I know. I always knew. I was just waiting to be ready to stop pretending I didn't. Say those words not as an affirmation in the conventional sense, not as something you were trying to convince yourself of, but as a declaration of recognition, as the moment in which you stop performing uncertainty about what has always been certain, as the threshold crossing from the version of you that required external confirmation before it would fully inhabit its own knowing, to the version of you that simply knows and lets the knowing be enough. There is enormous power in that threshold. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It feels, in the body, like something settling, like a frequency that has been vibrating slightly out of alignment, finally finding its resonant center and locking in. Like the moment when two tectonic plates that have been under tension finally release, not with violence, but with the profound relief of something coming home to what it always was. That is what is available to you in this moment, not as a future promise, as a present reality that is waiting for you to step fully into it. Before you scroll, take a moment to be part of what is forming here. Drop one intention in the comments. Something real, something true, something that belongs to the version of you that just received this transmission. Then find someone else's intention and meet it with energy, with recognition, with the kind of encouragement that only someone who carries this frequency knows how to give. This is not content. This is collective alignment. And when intention meets intention in a field of genuine resonance, what forms is not just connection. It is a transmission point. A new coordinate on the map of what this world is becoming. If something in this message reached you, don't keep it close. Someone in your orbit is waiting for this exact activation, and they may not have found the words to ask for it yet. Share it. Let it reach them the way it reached you, through frequency, through resonance, through the part of them that already knows but has been waiting for confirmation. And if you felt that soul nudge, the one that says stay, go deeper, there is more here for you. Subscribe. Stay in the flow of what is being transmitted through this space. You are not just watching, you are expanding, and we are just getting started.